All right, today's trend is going to start out with something that might sting a little bit. Our trend is check your unconscious bias. So especially if you're in a leadership role inside your organization or you're supporting diversity and inclusion and equality inside your organization, we all have bias. I know, I have it too. As somebody that studies this, that is diligent at this, that is certified in unconscious bias, I have it. And I own it and I manage it every single day. And as leaders, that's our choice. That's our choice too, to manage it. And so thinking about what is unconscious bias, right? What is this thing that people sometimes call implicit bias and bias in the workplace? What does it look like? It often it's a pattern recognition by our brain. Our brains are hardwired to see trends and to make assumptions, right? We kind of like to go into autopilot and save the energy in our brain for the really tough stuff. Well, what ends up happening is that we shortcut decisions and we recognize somebody as looking a certain way or behaving a certain way, and they must be like this. We lump them into another category of people. And with underrepresented people inside your organization, that can happen a lot more often so to them. So the data from Harvard and their implicit bias test, which I highly recommend that everyone takes, Google search it now and find it. It's been around for quite some time and decades of, in fact, research that they've done. They'll tell you what your bias is with race, gender, and several other variables. Everyone has some degree of bias in one of those areas, if not many of them. I personally do. And so assess it, be self-aware of it. Think about where that might have come from. For me, I have certain life experiences that have contributed to my bias and my lack of bias in some cases, based on how I was raised, the experiences I had growing up, my workplace experiences. We're all a conglomeration of those experiences that result in our bias. And then our choice is to manage it, right? Once we become aware, we have to step into it and say, when I get into the situation, how do I know that's true about that person, right? If I were to test that, what would a different perspective look like? And so that's the trick to undoing that pattern recognition and reprogramming your brain to think about diversity differently, to think about people different than you, more than just what meets the surface, but to dig a little bit deeper and redirect those patterns going forward. So to be successful in diversity, you have to be armed with tools like unconscious bias. Highly recommend this tool and the work that Harvard's done, as well as training and workshops that we do on this topic if you're interested.